I can stand firm and say, no, I'm not doing that. And I'll walk away, because I've got the ability to do that. And we've all known people, and it impacts their leadership when they are so far in debt, or they're so far, they're living that check to check to check. They can't walk away from their job. I don't want to walk away from my job. I love my job. But if I have to, I will.
Listen, and I'm weird about this. I don't wear a uniform to work. I change at work. And I take this uniform off before I leave work. And I go home, and this is not what defines me as a person, and I don't want it to be what defines me as a person. And, I see that these officers, that they allow their marriages to go to shambles, they allow their friendships to fall to the wayside because everything surrounding them has to do with law enforcement. And, man, that is just an unhealthy environment. Y'all got some powder.
Wow, it's already starting.
Don't you?
Did you hit the record button, sir?
Hey.
We're recording now, actually.
We
So
don't all have Eddie Munster hair.
Wow.
that will be the first take before we do
Wow.
intros.
That was awesome.
All right. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to the 10-8 podcast. Before we get started, we want to make sure we thank the governor for allowing us to serve in these positions. It's an honor to be able to do what we do every single day. We want to thank our Attorney General for providing the funding to build out this studio. Our production manager, Jonathan Nettles, absolutely magical what he does with the four of us and our guest. And today we've got two special guests, two brothers who came up through the ranks together, decided to take this journey a long time ago together, and they're sitting here at the pinnacle of their careers. Mike Hagar, Colonel of the Arkansas State Police, Secretary of Public Safety, and Chief Jeff Hagar from the Sherwood Police Department. So we're going to get to pick on you two today, have some fun. I know we did a little pre-recording before we did our introductions. I hope they play that. So what was that comment that you made about hairstyles, sir?
Yeah, the Eddie Munster hair. Yeah, he took the first jab if you didn't get that one.
I think we caught it. So we all kind of started our careers about the same time, 1995, 96, 97, right in that time frame. So did the two of you pre-plan this? Was this ordained, or how did you guys both end up in uniform?
You're the older brother, so go ahead.
I don't know. I think Mike always. I always knew Mike would be a police officer. From the time he was in high school, he used to listen to a scanner. He liked it, and that's something he always wanted to do. Our dad was a police officer, so I always knew he would. For me, not so much. I don't really know what caused me to. I don't know. He had taken a job. He had actually gone to work at Sherwood, and I was unhappy with what I was doing, and I thought, I don't know, man, that might be worth a shot. See if I like it better than what I'm doing. And anyway, I ended up moving down here, and I went to work. I stayed at Sherwood, and he left and did his thing with the state police, and it just kind of worked out that way, I guess.
So did you join the military prior to? I know you retired
did.
from the military,
Yeah.
so you'd already started your military journey.
Yes.
Before that. And then generational cops, right?
Yeah.
Where'd your dad serve?
He retired at Independence County Sheriff's Department, but he actually started at Little Rock Police Department. In fact, there's a picture of my dad, our dad, holding me as a newborn. Jeff standing there beside him, much older. He was in his teens. No, I'm kidding. He was 3. But there's a picture of Dad wearing, Little Rock PD back in those. Well, in 1973, they wore the gray uniforms. But we have a picture of our dad holding me, Jeff standing beside him. And then it's kind of neat, fast forward 25 years or however long it was, and there's a picture of the 3 of us in uniform at the police academy graduation when Jeff graduated from the police academy. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I had 2 uncles that also are career, now retired law enforcement, and we just kind of were raised in that. So, like Jeff said, I feel like sometimes I didn't really have a choice in the matter, which is not true. It is something that I always wanted to do. I fought it for a while, when I was in college, I changed my major a couple of times, and then finally,
Well, you were in college for a long time.
I was in college for a long time. Yeah, most people
7-year graduate.
I think it's even more than that, but anyway, but most people, they kind of know, I guess, early on. I did, but I pushed back on it for a variety of reasons, just like we would be with our sons now. Our dad was very hesitant for us to enter this profession, and so I remember going home and telling Dad that, hey, I've changed my major and this is what I want to do, and I got the talk.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It didn't
Yeah.
work.
Yes.
I've told you guys my story, but, my uncle was killed in the line of duty, and so my family had gone through that process, and I had to call my aunt and ask her permission, and you could have heard a pin drop, and so my family was much the same way. You're going to do what?
Right, right.
And so, so what were you doing prior to law enforcement that you didn't like, that you thought law enforcement was going to be better?
I don't think it was so much. I was working in a chemical plant in Batesville is where I was working, and it was a good job. I mean, I made good money, and I didn't just dislike the job. It's just I didn't feel like I was. And I think Mike said it a while ago. I think it was probably more of it wasn't really what I was supposed to do in life. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're both religious guys, and I believe that, there are callings on your life, and I just think this was what I was called to do, and I don't think I was going to be happy doing anything until I got to this point. So
You can only fight it for so long.
yeah, and I think that probably had a lot to do with it. But you mentioned a while ago the military, that military structure, and, this is a paramilitary organization, and I don't know, I just felt drawn to it more and more the older I got, and of course I am older than him, so he started a year or two before I did, and so by the time, I saw that he was happy doing that, I was married, and so I had to square that with the spouse.
Right.
But as usual, she's always been very supportive in everything I've ever done, and I'll say that, and I think Mike would echo that, because Kimberly, she's had to put up with a lot of stuff too. The success in this career field, you have to hand that solely to the spouse, because, man, if you don't have a happy house, you are not going to have a successful career. And so, we're both very blessed that our wives have been very supportive of us. And
Yeah, we talk about, we don't shy away from the fact that it's a calling. When we're teaching, speaking to new cadets, or anytime we have the opportunity, to witness. That's really
Sure.
kind of what we're doing. We talk about that this is God's calling for all of us. We're in this season for a very particular reason. In the assignments we're given right now, this is where we're supposed to be. We don't shy away from it. And I think you're absolutely right. You can fight it for as long as you want. You can change your major 4 or 5 times, but at the end of the day, you're going to wrap around and come back to it. And then we found out that Troop School and Alita used to be in the same facility, and we actually graduated. You graduated
That's
Troop
right.
School the same time I graduated Alita back in the day, and then you came through Alita just a year or so later.
actually, I went through Little Rock. So
Oh well,
Yeah.
gosh, you're privileged.
I don't know about that.
You missed out on East Camden, sir.
I've been there plenty of times.
Yes, you have. So guys, what do you got?
So, Chief, I was going to ask you. You were talking about how kind of fought it at first, and you weren't happy doing what you were doing. How long after you got in the car, wearing the badge, doing the job? How long was it like? All right, this is what I've been looking for. How long did that take?
Man, I think I knew that before I got in the car the first time, probably, to be honest with you. But but I certainly felt like this is where I'm supposed to be, and I still, I'm in my 29th year at Sherwood, and I still today, that to hear that radio call and to be out in the car, it's still, it's still something that's, I feel like a kid when I'm out there. I just enjoy it still. So, all the officers prefer I stay away from calls. So I try to as much as possible, but I still, I still enjoy it. I don't think it ever got old to me.
So I'm gonna make a comment right quick. When you walked in, I noticed, and I'm sure y'all did too. You got a working man's belt, and what I'm saying is, y'all notice on his baton, he's got that he's got that label we used to always put on it, because when it's time to do work and stuff happens and there's a melee, you want to have your label on it, so when you're gathering up all the gear, because there's been the pile on, it's like, that's mine. I saw that right out the gate. I'm like, that's a working chief.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's what we want in this profession.
Absolutely.
You know, we talk about all the time that a successful leader in this profession cannot live in the four corners of their office. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got to be out with your people. You've got to be having conversations, being present, and obviously, you know, that shows with the way you carry yourself and wear your uniform. And I appreciate that about chiefs and sheriffs and Colonel, you wearing your uniform as much as you can, and changing hats from the big hat to the political hat a lot of times. But
I brought my hat for you, Chris.
it just, you know,
if you want, yeah.
no, I know I can't touch it, right? Isn't that an unwritten rule? I tried to hold it one day at session, and he was like,
You may look at it. That is all.
yeah, you can look at it in awe. So, what you got, Jace?
So a couple things you just mentioned: 29 years, 30 plus years.
Well, 30 in July, total
Wow,
law
30.
enforcement. It'd be 29 with the state in July.
An amazing career on both of you. Both of y'all have reached that pinnacle of your profession. You with your agency, and you, of course, as you know, the colonel. Has that built stronger relationships between your two agencies?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but you know, which I'm blessed, and we talked about, you know, we're going to jab at each other and things like that. You know, we'll be brothers. We told
Right.
Joan Shipley before we walked in that we may be in the floor wrestling before this is over with, but you know, I have to say, he's still my big brother. So there's just that thing inside of you. You want to please your big brother. You want
Yes,
to get
sir.
his approval. Our parents are the same way. We both still feel that way. So we've been friends all along. I mean, which is great. You know, a lot of people, you know, they love their siblings, but don't necessarily like them. We've been friends. I mean, we love each other, but we're close friends. We talk almost daily. But yeah, so it's helped, you know, within agencies, but not only Sherwood. We're also blessed, as you guys know, that we've got a group of leadership right now around the state that we're also friends with. You know, whether it's Pat and Heath and Corey and Brett and, you know, all the chiefs in the Pulaski County area that, you know, it's a blessing to have that friendship. You know, we work well together. We rely on each other. We pick each other's brains on things. Jeff has always been ahead of me in the ranks, and I've always been able to, you know, pick his brain about things, you know, going up through. And I will say this wasn't necessarily, I don't think either one of us when we started our profession, you know, his goal wasn't to be the chief. My goal wasn't to be the colonel. You know, people that don't know, I worked 12 years before I even took the sergeant's test.
Wow.
This was not a goal of mine. It was never my intention to be in this position. You know, those things just kind of fell in place, and it happened that way. But it's been helpful to me to work off of his example, you know, his leadership example, whether it be in the military or as a leader in his department, you know, to kind of pick his brain about things like that. And you know, so yeah, it's helped strengthen the relationship with our agencies. But you know, I don't want to say it strengthened our relationship, but it's built it professionally. We've always been close, so you know, nothing to, you know, repair damage wise
Right.
there. But yeah, I mean, for me, absolutely, it's been a godsend.
That's awesome.
So, Jeff, both of you just made comment. You were shaking your head. I didn't aspire to be a chief until very, very late in my career. I mean, I just had no ambition to do that. I was happy doing what I was doing
Right.
in the positions. So, 2020, correct, is when you were appointed as chief?
Yes.
How did that come about? I mean, it's not something you were looking for, but you kind of stumbled into it, or, I mean...
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, I don't know. I think that dynamics in a department, you know, there are people, I mean, sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time, and there's really, you know, you're kind of faced with the situation where, and I don't want to speak for my mayor now or the old mayor of what their decisions were, you know, with appointments, but I think that it was just, you know, I think it was good timing. Man, I was very blessed that I worked for a chief for 10 years before I was appointed to that position, and I think it was his desire that I be the one that replaced him. And so he really mentored me, and he brought, he taught me a lot to set me up for that. And then when the time came, it was a whole lot easier transition. But, and I have to say this because I tell my officers all the time that, it's really not what you want out of your career sometimes. It's what you owe back to your career sometimes. And, I'm one of these people that a guy told me one time when I was a young officer, I was the same as Mike. I didn't test for sergeant. I'd worked 7 or 8 years before I ever tested for sergeant. And so I was a detective at the time, and I had a lieutenant that told me, he said, "Hey, I noticed you didn't sign up to take the promotion test." And I said, "Yeah, man, I'm really not, I don't feel ready for that, and all that." And he said, "Well, that's garbage." He said, "You like working Monday through Friday with weekends off." And he said 2 things that you need to learn about this. He said, one is you're going to be, one of these days, he said, you're going to work for somebody that's not as capable as you are if you allow yourself to just sit back and ride those good hours. And he said, the second thing that's going to happen is, he said, you're going to realize one of these days that you had the ability, but you didn't take the responsibility. And he said, if you have the ability, you have the responsibility to do something. And so he said, so I'm going to make this easy for you. I'm going to transfer you back to midnight shift patrol, or you take the sergeant's test. So I took it, and I ended up getting promoted later. And I have tried to pass that on to the next generation that, hey, listen, we have to, for the betterment of our agency, for what's best for our agency, we have to offer ourselves up wherever we're needed. And sometimes that's not where we want to be. And, I never thought for a second that I would have been the chief of police one day, nor did I want that job. But it's just the way it worked. And I think that, sometimes if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you might find yourself in a place that's outside your comfort zone, but that doesn't mean you're not capable of it. So.
Yeah, does that not pour into the core of servant leadership that we
Absolutely.
constantly talk about, though?
Knowing, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm hearing. And now that you are both in the position where you're the senior leaders of your organizations, what is driving you at this point? What is it when you're getting up, this is what you want to see happen while you're in these positions?
For me, it's that mission first mentality. I am so blessed. I know all you guys, so this doesn't come as a shock to you. The guys that work in the state police right now, and just to be clear, I'm doing this as in a state police role. Obviously, Department of Public Safety as well, but the guys that are doing this job, the troopers that are out there working, they are so much better at this job than I ever was. I mean, so much better. And I'm in awe of them. And I read the significant activity emails, I read the investigation summaries, watch the videos, things like that. I was never that good at my job ever. And to me, I feel like that it's my responsibility now to just support them, get them what they need. Put commanders in place that have got that same mindset.
Right.
At the end of the day, Jeff kind of alluded to it that you can either work for someone that you question their intentions, or you can work for someone that their intentions. And with all of us, knowing you guys the way I do, and of course knowing Jeff the way I do, it's a mission first mentality. It's not about me. It's not about I was never one that was, chasing that next rank to put on my collar. Like Jeff said, some of that stuff just kind of fell into place, and it happened that way. But it's really easy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's easy. Public safety trumps everything, period. It's that simple. And you have to give these guys the ability to go out and do their job, know that you're going to support them, know that, they're going to stump their toe every now and then along the way. And, because you care about them, you're going to correct it and learn from it and move on. But, the biggest thing is having people in place that, again, have that mission first mindset. I said a long time ago, and our command staff gets, sick of me saying this, and this is not something that I've said or, any of us said. And let me say this real quick. Like the command staff, you guys know them. I mean, we're interchangeable. We all have the same mindset. There's not one person on that command staff that couldn't do my job better than I'm doing. So, but it's because we all have that same mindset. But, if years ago, it was obvious that you could take a whiteboard and you could draw a line right down the middle. And there's people if you started writing supervisors down in your agency and you started looking at, these are the people that are taking care of the people that work for them. These are the people that are putting the mission of the agency first. And then on this side, you write down these are the people that are chasing rank. These are the people that are just trying to achieve that next rank. It's all about me. And it's a very clear line. And, most of us have experienced that in our lifetime.
Yes.
And, it's something that we have focused on. We've tried to be very intentional about to make sure that the people we're putting in place, not just on a command staff level, but the sergeants that we're promoting out in the field, because they will be our command staff someday, eventually. So it's just that mission first mindset. That's what I try to bring to the table, and I try to focus on. And I think for me, that's what drives me.
One of the things I admire about both of you, and Jeff and I get to sit on some boards together, and of course I get to work with you daily, and we've become, I feel like we've all become friends over the last several years, and coming up to the ranks together. But the mission first puts ego aside.
Yes.
And one of the things I admire about both of you is the relationship building component to that, and how important that is. Like you guys talk about the relationship here in the metro area. Jeff, you've got a statewide presence now, being on the Chiefs board, having a voice and having conversations with everybody. Obviously, it's not state police first, it's mission first, and you've built relationships across the state. I think that speaks a lot to your character, both of you, and the philosophy of, hey, egos aside, we've got a mission. It may not, yes, it's agency specific, but overall it's about our communities in the state of Arkansas. And, boy, that's just something I really admire about both of you.
I agree. And that attracts the right people.
Absolutely.
Also, because they're looking, those new recruits, those new troopers coming in, they see how their leaders are acting, and they're saying, that's somebody I can follow.
Yep.
And that I have massive respect for that. And both of you have told me individually that the goal of our leadership, the development, the culture we're wanting to create is servant leadership. And you both emulate that every day. And that's, I'm very thankful for that. It's easy to follow.
Yeah, so Jeff, I pulled your bio this morning.
Looks really good in this picture.
That's a great picture, by the way. Everybody see that? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a Eddie Munster haircut to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Could I get that when we get done?
you want him to
Sign.
sign it?
He'll
We'll
sign
hang it in
it.
the office. Okay.
Chief, is that possible?
He has glossy 8x10s. So he can deliver them, so
Glamour
it
shots?
won't be, yeah.
But
Does he have your business cards he hands out across the state?
yeah. So you set the expectation early on for your officers. You stated on your website, upholding the Constitution of our nation, best efforts to those that need us, willingness to serve through your sworn oath of honesty, bravery, and trustworthiness, unsullied character, not just possess the ability to enforce the law, but able to do it justly without malice. I think the fact that you set the expectation early on has allowed you to build a department full of good men and women, and I know you're doing the same thing. I think we always talk about setting the expectation and then holding people accountable to what we expect. How did you come about with that mission statement and that philosophy? I mean, just did you have somebody mentor you along the way? You talked about the chief earlier, and
Yeah, and I mean, I think that with for me, coming from a military background, I was always taught that you're responsible for you. Everything that you do is you're the only one that can control what you do, but you affect everybody that's within arm's reach of you because of your actions. And so, I believe that we have a responsibility to do it right and to do it the best that we can, and to give, as simple as it sounds. I mean, we know what the job description is when we take it. You know, we know that job description, and so just follow it. Just do what you're supposed to do and do it the right way, and don't do it, you know, with any malice. Don't do it with any anger. You just do it because it's the right thing to do. That's what you know, it's always funny to me when I interview new officers, you always ask them, you know, why do you want to be a police officer? Well, their answer, we've all heard it 100 times. Their answer every time is, I want to help people, you know, I want to serve people. Well, okay, then let's go do that, and let's do it the right way. And I think sometimes sometimes that gets, you know, I think it gets, I hate to use the word sullied, but I think that sometimes, you know, when guys get out there and they do the job for a while, you know, the most dangerous thing in the world is that other driver's window at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're sitting 49 with another disgruntled officer, you know, because they can pull you down the sewer if you let them. And, you know, you just have to, you know, Mike said some while ago, and I 100% agree. These officers today, they are so much better officers than we were. I mean, it's not even close. You know, if I had to work under the scrutiny that they do today, you know, I don't know how I would handle that. You know, I've got, you know, nearly 30 years of experience dealing with people, and I still, you know, sometimes I'm on the phone and my head is about to blow up. I'm so, you know, angry and trying to control my words and my temper. And they do it on the street with a camera in their face every day. Yes. And we put a camera on them. Yeah. You know, and I mean, it's incredible really what these men and women do today, you know, that are coming into it. And I would hate to have to start over again. Hey, listen, I love this job. I think it is a honorable profession, but boy, I'd hate to have to start over working with the conditions that they work with. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I think we've got the most talented group of professionals our profession has ever seen. I think the young men and women that we're hiring today really are some of the most talented people out there. I mean, I don't know where else they could go and wear as many hats as we require them to wear every single day under the scrutiny that they're under. Did you pick up, Eric, on the family aspect? I'm assuming you want to circle back to that?
Absolutely. Read my mind. Before we get on that, I want to bring up one thing that spoke to me on the professional side. I had a mentor growing up through the profession that said, you know, Eric, a lot of times when you're thinking about who your next leader is, it's oftentimes not going to be the guy or the officer's jumping on the ground and saying, pick me, pick me, pick me. It's that silent professional that's done the work, that's building themselves into to be ready for the position. Mm-hmm. And y'all used the word several times, fell into place. The opportunity may have opened up and fell into place, but y'all did the work. Y'all were preparing yourself. Y'all were becoming the leaders. So for our younger officers that are watching this, the opportunity may have presented itself, but the work was done. You know, and it just hammers home what that leader told me growing up. Y'all weren't chasing rank. Y'all were preparing. The opportunity presented itself, and now you're sitting in the seats that you're in. So it encourages me, and I hope it'll encourage some of the listeners. The family side, backing it all the way up to that. Successful careers, successful marriages. Both of y'all can sit on the couch and speak to that. What suggestions would you have for young officer spouse that might be watching it? Just anything that you can feed back into them on how to keep that family front strong. Because I agree, we agree. We talk about it all the time to these recruits. If you're not healthy at home, you're not gonna be healthy at work. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that specifically that has worked for y'all? Some suggestions that you might be interested in giving those younger officers and their spouses that are watching?
You know, for me, first and foremost, I don't know how you do this job without faith and having a foundation in that, regardless of what it is. I mean, it starts there. You know, we tell people all the time, you know, and you guys have heard me say that, you know, put God first, your family next, and then your job. But boy, it's a whole lot easier to say than live sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I'll even say that I used to be hesitant to be as open about my faith as I am because I know Mike, and I know I'm going to disappoint people. Right. And I don't want people looking at me saying, well, you know, that guy talks a big show, but I saw him get mad the other day, and he said some stuff that, and I hope people are mature enough to realize and human enough to realize that, just because you have a foundation of faith don't mean you're going to, not going to disappoint them. Mm-hmm. But to me, it starts with faith first. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And then family. And having to have that family support, trying your best to put family first. Y'all, unfortunately for Chris especially, he's got to hear me talk more than he cares to ever hear. But, I've made the comment before at graduations and things like that you've got to put your family first when you can, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And it's good just to have those conversations with family. I mentioned one time, one calendar year when I was serving on our SWAT team, we were called out on my wife's birthday, Mother's Day, and I think it was Thanksgiving. I'd have to go back and look, but I promise you my wife didn't feel like I was putting her first that year. She felt like I was putting my job first. And unfortunately, sometimes that's difficult, but if you have those conversations on the front end, and you make them realize that this is a calling. I do believe that. I have said that I'll do this, and now I've got that responsibility. But you have to have that on the front end. You can't wait until after the fact, because now it looks like damage control.
Right.
So, and I'll tell you something else that for me, people make fun of me constantly about being tight. I have nothing on that guy about being tight. But I'm telling you, something that would keep peace at home for a young officer that may watch this, being financially responsible and frugal. It's amazing what that will do to you. Just in the aspect that you're not having to chase that off-duty work. You're not having to chase that overtime.
Right.
You're not having to, because you've overspent and things like that. And then truthfully, in a leadership position, I think it helps. And I think it gives you the ability to stay true to who you are, stay true to your beliefs, and not be concerned about, well, if I push back on my boss, and hey, we all have a boss. I may be the director and he's the chief, and you guys are in the positions you're in. We all have a boss.
That's right.
And, I'm blessed. I don't think there's any chance the governor's going to watch this, but if she did, she's never one time asked me to do something that was contrary to my, my morality or my, my vision of what I think that we should be doing as an agency or anything like that. She's been wonderful. But if she ever does, I can stand firm and say, no, I'm not doing that. And I'll walk away, because I've got the ability to do that. And we've all known people, and it impacts their leadership when they are so far in debt, or they're so far, they're living that check to check to check. They can't walk away from their job. I don't want to walk away from my job. I love my job. But if I have to, I will. And, I'm not going to sacrifice, my values or, I love the department too much to sacrifice the department's reputation or our mission and our goals, to please a boss and do something contrary to my belief system. And so as silly as that may sound, and as trivial as that may sound, I think just financial stability and doing that on the front end, it allows you more freedom to stay true to yourself. And it allows more freedom to, spend time with your family when you can spend time with your family, and not have to be out there, chasing that next paycheck or that next rank or, that overtime, whatever the case may be.
I think it's great advice. I think it's great advice because, young officers, when you get that opportunity to go make that overtime money or that extra duty money, the off duty money, and generally it's decent sized numbers, but the job's going to take enough time on its own. Right. Just your regular shift is going to take plenty of your time, and there's a reason those off duty rates are so high, because they're paying you for what you're missing. Right. So and it's easy. We've all been there, getting snagged into that.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but just don't make it part of your budget to where you have to have it.
Absolutely.
Right. Jeff and I have talked about, I worked my share of off duty. It was deer camp money.
Yeah.
That was, paying for whatever. It was like one-time things that you're going to use that money for, but it's not built into my ability to pay the bills. I think that's when guys get in trouble.
I think it's great advice. Chief, you got any suggestions for our young officers and their families?
I'll just echo what he said. We had a conversation here a while back about, advice that you would give somebody that wants to take this job. And I talked to and I think we all need to be developing the people that are going to be our successors. We need to be teaching them. And that's one of the things that I really talk to my, my lieutenants, especially, now, and the captains as well. But, financial independence, man, cannot be overstated, because if you really want to be able to do this job and keep your integrity and keep your your belief system that you just can't move from, you have to have that. Because, and I'm fortunate too, I don't have a boss that has ever asked me to do anything that I felt uncomfortable with. But I tell you, it is nice to know that if they do, I can walk out the door with my held head high, and I don't have to worry about my finances. And I don't think that as young officers, to learn how to manage your money and to be able to do that, there is nothing guaranteed about tomorrow in this job, and you need to prepare yourself and be financially independent. But as much as financial independence is important, I'm going to tell you this too. I mean, I think for young officers, if I could give them one piece of advice, it would be this: you cannot let this uniform, you can't let this job become who you are. You have to be. I still am Jeff Hagar. When I go home, listen, and I'm weird about this, I don't wear a uniform to work. I change at work, and I take this uniform off before I leave work, and I go home, and this is not what defines me as a person, and I don't want it to be what defines me as a person. And, I see that these officers, that they allow their marriages to go to shambles, they allow their friendships to fall to the wayside because everything surrounding them has to do with law enforcement. And, man, that is just an unhealthy environment. Wow. You have to keep, if you do this job 3 or 4 years and you turn around and all your friends are cops all of a sudden, and you're not running around and you're not spending time with those people that you used to, then you've got a problem. Everybody else don't have a problem. You've got a problem, and you need to sort that out.
Well, and I agree with you 100%. I think that our officers, young officers, experienced officers, everybody in between, you have to be intentional with that, because the job is so cool. The job is such a neat job, and it's such a calling, and it's so fulfilling. It's so easy to just put all your eggs in that basket. So I appreciate that advice for you. I hope they take it to heart. I really do.
Yeah, and you're right. It is, and it's really easy to get sucked down that drain. You, like you said, the word intentional, and and I would argue that anything that you're successful at, and I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's, he mentioned deer hunting a while ago. I don't care if it's your finances, friendships, marriage, work. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're not intentional about it, and you don't put safeguards in place, and put bumpers up around you that keeps you task oriented, then it is our nature to fail. As humans, it is our nature to fail. So we have to prevent that by going out and putting those safeguards in place. And we have to, you have to decide, this is what I want to be, and this is who I want to be. And then you just have to be intentional about accomplishing it, and accomplishing it in the right way.
This is so exciting to me, because when you look at the training that we're doing right now, whether it's ASP or DPS statewide, we have a family component in all of those leadership questions. When you look at that, because we recognize that your longevity and your long-term impact, whether they're thinking about it or not, it's walking beside you. You're not just, I'm a police officer and now I got to go be a dad. You're both of those things simultaneously.
And what's the priority, though? That's the thing that I think coming up, looking at nearly 30 years of law enforcement, I didn't have leaders that would have those conversations early on. It was job, 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 job. Work, 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 work. Mission, mission, mission. We didn't have conversations 25 years ago about family and faith and don't overextend yourself. It was strictly about work. There may have been the exceptions to the rule, but the people I worked for, it was all about the job.
Oh, yeah. And look at the way some of those people, not to throw stones, because some of the best people I've ever known are from that generation, some of the best cops I've ever known.
Some of the best cops.
Yeah. But they suffered when they had to leave the job because they lost their identity when they left. And, we've all seen that so much. And I respect the fact that they love their profession as much as they did, but, it's sad when you see them leave that and they're no longer that they no longer have that identity and they struggle. You know, I've got a very close friend within the job whose dad, you know, retired, and he struggled with that, you know, greatly, and it cost him, you know, he paid the ultimate price for it, and you know, so it's just it's a reminder, you know, this is what I do for a living. Now we're blessed. I can see where if you're an accountant, it'd be very easy to go home and leave that at work.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
but
right. Thank goodness.
but when you believe in what you believe in the way we do, it is a calling. I mean, absolutely it's a calling. And so it is hard to, you know, turn that off. And I think you can, you know, manage that, and there can be a balance there to where, you know, that is what you do and you believe in what you do. But, you know, as you said earlier, you know, everything has a season. And when this season is over with and you go on, you know, I don't kid myself. First of all, you know, I've worked, I think, for like 9 directors since I've been in the state police. You know, I'm just another director. I mean, you know, when I leave here, but I'm Breck's only dad, and I'm my wife's only husband, and you know, that's what I want to be known for. That's going to be the legacy that will be, you know, talked about. Not Mike the director. Nobody cares. You know, nobody's going to tell stories about that.
So I think what you're saying is very important for new officers, but I also think for those guys that are aspiring to sit where you are, understanding that, right? So you as the colonel, your phone never stops ringing. You as chief, your phone never stops ringing. You're picking it up right now. I just saw you. I saw you. I caught that. You know, as a chief, I understood that. You're really never disconnected. So being intentional about that. And so it's important for the new officers that are coming into the profession to understand that early on. But, you know, sergeants and lieutenants that aspire to move forward in the profession, you better start identifying that as well now, because it'll eat you alive.
I would love it if there is a mid-career officer out there somewhere that hears this and it speaks to them and they say, I need to put my brakes. I need to make a decision because I'm on the verge of losing what's most important to me right now, and maybe they reprioritize and make some changes before they become a statistic.
Well, it's just not your sergeants and lieutenants. I admire both of you. I truly use a way to describe the two of you as authentic. And you're who you are. You have a cop's heart, and you're just serving in these positions for now. And so, how do we bring that change to current chiefs, sheriffs, chief deputies, assistant chiefs? How do we get them to start seeing how we flip that switch to have that same mentality the two of you have? Chief,
Older brother wisdom.
Older brother
sir.
looked at, or younger
I'm
brother
taking
looked
notes, sir.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to defer to a sermon that I heard a guy preach one time. This sermon he preached, he said, do you want to live your life and build a legacy, or do you want to live your life to build a legend? And, you know, he defined legend as being something that is temporal, something that takes place today in the here and now. And so, you know, or do you want to build a legacy? That's something that transcends beyond your lifetime. And, you know, I think that a lot of times as police officers, you know, we put these boards up in the police department that says Officer of the Year, you know, and everybody wants their name on that board at some time. But, you know, what people do is they walk up and they look at the last name on the list. They don't look back 4 years, 5 years ago. And I think that's an important lesson for people to understand is that do your job the best you can today. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong. And you know, Mike alluded to this a while ago. I think that we have to go out there and we have to do our best job. We owe it to the people that we serve. We owe it to our boss. We owe it to ourselves to go out and do the best job that we can every day. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, I went to a promotion ceremony the other day. A friend of mine had made E9 in the military, and I went to his promotion ceremony, and I told him, I said, man, the one thing I want you to understand above all else, because I lived this, is there's going to come a day and you're going to walk out of this building and you're going to have your box in your hand with all of your stuff, and you're going to put it in your vehicle, and you're going to drive out of this parking lot, and you're going to think everybody's mourning the loss of Jeff Hagar. But I said, the truth is they're going to walk in the door and they're going to look around and they're going to say, what's for lunch?
Yep.
You know, this is a temporary thing that we do. And I mean, do the best you can, be proud of what you do, honor what you do, but don't be so naive as to believe that they're going to build a statue to us.
Right.
You know, there's going to be another chief that comes behind me. There's going to be another director that comes behind him, and we're going to be a footnote at that point. And I'm fine with that. I don't want anything else, because really what's important to me is, you know, when they put on my tombstone one of these days, I want them to say, you know, loving husband, great father, good man. You can leave good chief off of it. That's not that important to me in the grand scheme of things. So,
Wow. Well, my papa, who I think was one of the wisest men to ever walk the face of the earth, always told me, leave it better than you found it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that y'all take to heart. Your passion is your people and leaving it better, because, as you know, you're going to walk out one day. And have you left it better than you found it, and then hoping the next person makes it even better, and then stand up and applaud for them. So I love that. I love that, Chief. Thank you.
Well, it goes back to this is our season, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be somebody else's season 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years from now. And, you know, do the best you can in the season and the time you're given. And how do we get it out to other chiefs and sheriffs? We continue to have conversations. I mean, we talk about the things that aren't easy to talk about. You know, sometimes people get caught up with rank and ego coexist at the same time, and sometimes we have to remember that it's not about ego.
Makes me excited about our summit coming up in Northwest Arkansas is, you know, that leadership, wellness, and resiliency. That is something we're bringing the chiefs and sheriffs across the state together to start building that grassroots aspect. So I'm excited about that.
You know, it's something too is you alluded to that a while ago. I know right now we're talking about, you know, or we've talked a lot about leadership, but I think it's something else that people need to realize that, you know, rank and leadership is not what defines you as having a successful career. We have legends in the state police, legends. The majority of them wore to the day they retired a silver badge. They never put on rank. I guarantee you we have sergeants in the state police that are talked about more and had more of an impact than a colonel ever did, that a captain ever did. You know, that's kind of background noise. So that's something else, you know, I hope people that, young officers, again, that watch this realize, you know, the mark of a successful career is not the rank that you walked out the door with that's on your collar. That's not it at all. You know, I don't tell many stories about, boy, I remember Colonel so-and-so did this. I didn't know those guys. I didn't, you know, they really had no impact on me. But I talked about my sergeant. I talked about my FTO. I talked about guys that I've, you know, worked with on the street every day. And to this day, we still talk about those guys that were, you know, literally legends in their agency and legends in their community that were just, you know, silver badges their entire career. Man, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. You know, and people need to kind of get out of that mindset that if I don't put on that next rank, I'm not a success in my career, because that's not the mark of a, you know, even financially. I know a lot of people that retire, you know, again, with the silver badge, that they stayed in one community. They didn't move their family around. You know, Jeff and I were both blessed. You know, pros and cons about working in the Little Rock area. I was able to go through the ranks and never had to relocate my family to do so. That's not typical in our department. Typically, you're going to have to uproot your family. Your wife has to leave her job. You have to sell a home, buy another home. You make another rank, you move again. And, you know, so again, at the end of the day, you're like, what do you define as success? I mean, you may have more rank on your collar than, you know, someone that didn't. But truthfully, I know a lot of silver badge corporals out there in the state police that are much better off financially, and they're pillars of their community. Man, that's success. Right. You know, they provided for their families well. They, you know, they've got great reputations within their agency. They have healthy homes, healthy marriages, healthy relationships with their children. That is the mark of success, not rank. Wow.
Yeah, the legacy isn't the rank on the.
Absolutely
it's not stripes,
no.
stars, and bars.
It's the impacts you made.
Right.
You know, and if it's the financial independence your family was able to benefit from because of the choices you made, or it's those legendary stories and examples that were said. It's not the rank. It's the impacts.
Yeah, I think the biggest compliment that I feel like anyone could ever give to me would be to use the word mentor. Yeah. you mentored me. You know, I try to use that with people that truly impacted my life along the way. I think that's the greatest compliment you can give someone is you were a mentor to me. And that doesn't have anything to do with rank.
Right.
Not a single thing. That's huge. So what else, guys?
Man, going back to that servant leadership thing, that's what it is. When we think about going all the way back to serving people, our mission of protecting those folks, when we walk up, they're not looking on our collars, they're not looking on our sleeves. They just know they need help.
Yeah.
And it's being those people in every situation that we come into, whether it's those that we're serving above us, below us, or beside us. And you guys inspire me, and I'm not just saying that. I really mean that. That when I think about the people that we have, and you've said it, Colonel, is that you look around, we got a lot of servant leaders walking around, and that is so inspiring to me.
Yeah, and I think when you look across this state, we're seeing a movement of servant leadership. People in positions of authority that have the opportunity to change the profession have that servant's heart mentality. And I think you two represent that tremendously every single day. And I know we kind of got you guys in here to hopefully y'all kind of punch and jab, but just the conversation has been fantastic today, and we appreciate you both so much. And I want to end on this, and you say it all the time, Colonel, and I think, Jeff, you would agree, finding a way to yes. We've stolen that from you, by the way. We use it weekly in conversations.
I was in the military, so that's okay.
Well, but so let's talk about that. I mean, I think that's the approach we take to most of the problems that we face. If we spend more time finding a way to yes versus just saying no, I just appreciate that so much.
You know, for our agency, that is the mission of our agency. We're an assisting agency. You guys all worked in places that you didn't rely on state police the way some people have to. They don't necessarily want to, but Dr. Clem, where you're at up there, where you came from, and that part of the state in Sharp County, and we have. I did the math one day and looked. There's about 62, 63 counties in the state of Arkansas that rely solely on the state police for any kind of major crimes investigation. Any tactical support, air support, wellness support, whatever the case may be, they rely on us. That's a statutory, and it's in our mission statement that we are an assisting agency. And honestly, for years, and it kind of goes back to leadership, we've all probably learned as much from bad leadership as we ever did from good. For sure. And that was very, very frustrating for me, who believes 100% in that mission of the state police, that we sit back and the reason was no. Or the answer, was no, and then we sit back and we found a reason to say no, and it should be the exact opposite of that. The answer is yes, and let's find our way there.
Wow.
What do we have to do to get to yes? And when we have local sheriffs, local chiefs that call us and they rely on those services, man, we have got to be able to find our way to yes, and it's one of the reasons that I pushed so hard, with this governor and with this legislature to get our numbers back up. It has nothing to do with the numbers of, troopers out there to accomplish our mission. We can't accomplish our mission without saying yes to other agencies, because that's what we do. That's fundamentally the reason that we were formed. So, when we build our ranks back up, we have more criminal investigators in the field, we have more patrol support, more, whatever, then we can do a lot of those things that otherwise we would not be able to do. We've got a full-time SWAT element now. We've got a full-time wellness unit now that's more robust than we've ever had. We've got a human trafficking, task force now that, we're very involved in. Those things don't happen if you don't have warm bodies to fill the positions. And, when all the dominoes start falling, you have to have people and you have to have the resources to be able to say yes. And I was tired of that, kind of tired excuse of, well, we don't have the manpower for that. Well, then let's go get the manpower for that. If the answer is no, then the answer is going to be no, but it's not going to be because I didn't ask. It's not going to be because I didn't go and try to make that argument to our governor's office or to the legislature. So, that's been a huge deal for us.
We've taken that approach division-wide, just whatever the problem may be. If it's a problem, instead of saying no on the front end, let's say yes and figure out a way to solve the problem instead of just pushing it to the side. And for us as a division, We got to get pretty creative sometimes. But I think it's a great approach in law enforcement across the board to have that yes mentality for the right reasons. Obviously, we're not going to say yes to everything, but when it's a problem worth fighting, when it's a battle worth fighting, then, rally your forces, figure out a way to yes, relationship building, partnerships, mentorships, those type things, and work the problems. So, any parting words, Chief? Well, we appreciate you guys so much for being here today with us, and for all of our 12 listeners out there, I hope they garner something from this conversation, and I hope the governor does listen, sir. I mean, we'll make sure we send it out to her staff, so maybe somebody over there will watch it and hear the good things we're doing. So, but thank you guys to everybody out there that's watching, and we appreciate the two of you, and again, your friendship and mentorship to us is huge, and we appreciate that very much.
Thank you guys. You said earlier, what can we do to, foster a new mentality or whatever? This is it. I mean, you guys, just little things like this, just getting that word out, talking, brainstorming, with people. Man, we appreciate y'all making the effort to do this. Absolutely. I know you're not busy in any other capacity, so
no, sir.
We appreciate you
not
guys
at all.
doing it. So.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up. We appreciate everybody tuning in and listening, and thank our guests today. So have a great day.